Hey everyone, this is Making an RPG Game, Episode 5, Enemies and Basic Player Attacks. Before I show you how I made my slime enemies, I must make something clear, and that is that I am not a massive team. I'm only a small level. I'm only a one person. And second of all is that this enemy is not the best. It shall be improved later, but not right now. So how I made my enemies is, first of all, by I'm making an object layer, as you can see, and I'm making it so I can place as many of these squares as I want, and this is going to be where the slime enemies are going to be. And then after that, what I did was, with this bit of code, I made the enemies table, and then with this bit of code, I set up the enemy sprite, and then with this bit of code, I made it so that I could spawn that enemy at any position, and the collisions can have any width and height. And then with this bit of code, I spawned that enemy at the position that I set it to be with the same width and height as the collision indicated. Here's what that looks like. As you can see, there is an enemy, but he is a little bit off. As you can see, like, there he goes. He also doesn't have any logic on him. So the way that I fixed that was by first making a ton of enemy data variables, and then after that, what I did was I added some gizmos, I think that's what they're called, on top of the enemy, so that for debugging and stuff. And then lastly, I made the enemy logic with this massive lot of code. This took me days to make. Like, I thought it would maybe take me 1-2 hours, I'm not sure, but it took me, I'm not sure, I think it took me around 12 hours, maybe 16 hours total. The way I ended up doing it was kind of just following the method that Shalsaid, a bigger than you shepherd than me, obviously, used to make his smarter enemies from scratch. Link in the description to his video, because it helped me a lot. And then I tried to make that, it failed, that took me another a few hours. Here's what that looks like. As you can see, the enemy can follow the player, and when it touches it, it will actually reset it back to player's starting position. In case you're wondering where those player.start position variables came from, that was from just a variable that I set up at the start of the game. Anyways, after this, what I have to do is I need to make some player attacks. So the way that I did this was with this bit of code, basically getting when the space key is down, and then I had to use this bit of code. And the reason for having the variable instead of just doing it directly in that function is because I need to override all the player animations. This might not make sense to you, but so I'll explain it. Basically, the last player animation that's done in update will basically happen. So basically, there's a list of stuff in update, and only the last one will happen. So, let's say I'm setting the player animation to a variable, and then after that, I'm setting the player animation to another variable. Then what the variable will get set to is the second time, is a thing that was set to the second time. So basically, I can't do it in that function, it won't work, because it happens before update. So what I needed to do is I needed to make it so that it happened after update. So obviously, as I said, with this massive lot of code, I made all the player attacks, and then in order to make it so that the enemy actually gets hurt by these attacks, I simply had to do this, which was basically just going backward through the enemy table, because there is a way that table.remove works, and it will make that so there's an empty space. So naturally, I had to remove I had to go from the last one to the first one in the table. Here's what that looks like. As you can see, the player can move, the enemy will chase it, and the player can fight back, and he can kill the enemy like that. It actually works. Now that I'm finishing off this video, I might as well mention two stuff. One is that the code for the enemy will be open source, as it was extraordinarily hard to make. And lastly, I would love it if you could subscribe. It's free, so why not? Anyways, bye!